Welcome to the Cello Zone. Today we're going to take the famous melody French folk song, also known as The Clown, and transform it into The Sad Clown by playing French folk song in D minor. In the last video I covered the one octave scale sheet, both major and minor, with open string pitch checks. So if you haven't gone through that video, gone through that sheet music yet, go back and check that link out. Play through those scales, and then come back to this video and work on the sad clown. We're going to start in the low octave, which is where we ended for the one octave scale sheet, okay? You'll notice in the sheet music, which you can download from my website, link in the description and a card up above, that there is actually a written out and even more detailed fingering for the D minor scale in both the low strings and the high strings to prepare you for playing this melody. Notice how I put some natural signs next to the fingerings. So like in the second measure, we've got 3 with a natural sign. That means E natural, your kind of regular third finger. And then on the G string, we have our second finger, the B flat, which you have to be really careful to make sure you remember to play B flat. You'll see I have a little arrow above that note over the second finger. That's to remind you, hey, that's a flat note. That needs to be low, okay? So when we're playing kind of new notes like a B flat, I'll put an arrow to say, hey, that needs to be lower, okay? You'll also notice in the sheet music that I've labeled which string we're playing these notes on, in case you're still getting used to reading sheet music. You see the capital Roman numeral 4 at the very beginning of the scale means 4th string, the C string. And I've also included lowercase letters, which is the name of the string. So capital 4, Roman numeral 4, that's your 4th string, the C string, and it's got a little C next to it. A couple measures later, you notice Roman numeral 3, that's your G string, the 3rd string. That's got a little lowercase g next to it. So anytime we're changing strings, or that note's going up or down to a new string, I put in the capital Roman numerals for which string that is, plus the lowercase letter name of the string, okay? So here we go. Let's start with the natural minor scale in the low octave, which is where we left off on our last exercises, the one octave scale sheet. And we're just going to follow the notation because French folk songs in 3/4, we're going to play the scale notes as a relaxed dotted half note, lasting 3 beats for each note of the key. And because we're trying to make it into the sad clown, we're going to play in a little bit somber, a bit of a drudging tempo to help add to the sad atmosphere, okay? 1, 2, 3, ready, and play. There's a little review of the notes of the key. We get the instrument ringing in a nice, deep, dark D minor sort of way. It's a really great key on the cello. Have fun playing these notes. It should sound open and really rich, okay? Make sure to be careful about your second finger B flat on the G string. That can kind of trip people up sometimes, okay? Now we're going to play French folk song, but in D minor, in the low octave where we just warmed up all of those notes. We practiced the notes of the key. And we're going to do nice, smooth legato bow strokes. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, ready, and play. right, how did it go? This might be the trickiest thing on the whole 2 pages of the Sad Clown, both the scales and playing through the melody. This is pretty new stuff. We're not used to using third finger and second finger combo yet, so that's pretty new. And we aren't used to playing melodies in the low strings very much. That's new as well. You might notice that on these thicker, lower strings, you have to use a slower bow speed and a little bit more weight and pressure from the arm. Sink into the string a little bit in order to get a nice core sound. If you play with too light of a pressure and too fast of a speed, it's going to sound like this. It's kind of surfacey, right? And it's more harmonics with the bow than it is the actual low, deep pitch. So we'll have to slow our bow speed down and use a little bit more weight. Go ahead and try that. Play first with a kind of a fast, light bow and see what happens on your cello. And then play with a nice slow speed with a little bit more arm weight and see how the sound changes. Okay, have you tried it? Now take that same slow bow speed and heavy pressure and try it on the A string. See what happens. Doesn't sound very good, does it? Okay, so the A string is a thin string. It responds very quick. We need a lighter pressure and a faster bow speed. And then the string will respond. If you try that same A string setting on the C string, it doesn't get the core sound anymore. So this is a little introduction to the fact that on each string, with its own thickness and tension, we need to vary the bow speed and the pressure from string to string. The thick strings on the low end are slower to respond, slower speed, more pressure. The thinner strings on top are quicker to respond, quicker bow speed, lighter pressure. Okay, experiment around with this. You're going to need it the more that you start playing from string to string across all 4 strings. Okay, let's try that melody one more time and really focus on getting good notes, nailing the fingerings, nice legato bow strokes, focus on your speed, focus on your pressure. Make sure you're dialing that in as you go and responding to how the string is responding to what you ask of it in real time. And let's focus on getting that mysterious, dark, deep, almost murky D minor sound in the low end. Okay? 1, 2, 3, ready, and play. All right, let's move on to page 2 of the Sad Clown. We're now going to try D minor on the top 2 strings. Okay, we haven't tried this fingering out yet in the previous exercise for the 1-octave scales, so I'm going to lead you through it a little bit more, note by note, okay? Some of this might be new if you've never played in D minor or F major before. However, for those of the older students who have played in F major on the top strings before, we're going to use all those same fingerings because D minor comes from F major. It just uses all of the notes of F major starting and ending on D. Okay, We start with open D, then we have a natural first finger, regular 1. So you'll notice in the sheet music I have a natural sign next to the number 1 for your first finger. That means regular 1, E natural. Second finger, fourth finger, open A. Now you'll notice I have an arrow underneath first finger. That means B flat, we got a lower first finger. And there's an X between 1 and 2. Now you're going to see this all the time in cello music. Whenever we have extended position, meaning now there's a whole step between 1 and 2, see how I could fit another finger half step in between there, where regular 1 would go? Now there's this whole step here, so we put an X in between 1 and 2. Anytime you see that X, it means you got to pop into extended position. This is called extension or extended position. When we're playing in normal first position, that's chromatic. We call it chromatic because every finger from neighboring finger to finger is a half step. Those are all half steps, so we call this a chromatic position. Now when we extend, we're still in a chromatic style, okay? So don't get confused on that. It's not diatonic. We're still in chromatic, but we have this extension here, a whole step, and then a series of half steps. Okay, so focus on that extension between 1 and 2 on the A string. That's really important. Got to have a low 1. One of the things that can help when you're playing low 1 on the A string is, or going back and forth with an extension, is to lift your first finger off the fingerboard when you're playing 2 or 4. So as we press down with 2 or press down with 4, you can let first finger pop up if you want to. Sometimes it's a little stressful to hold an extension, and so when you press down with those upper strings, you can just let the first finger pop up, and you can hold your extension, but it can be a little more relaxed. You're not glued to the fingerboard that way. Okay, try not to spend too much time at first in extension, but work your way into it. And if you can't quite get all the way back, that's okay. Keep working on your spacing. It will get there eventually. It's all right for your first finger to be a little bit straighter when you're extended. We still have a curve to it, okay? It's not completely straight. I would be off the fingerboard almost if it was completely straight. But take a look. Here's chromatic, regular position, extension, chromatic, extension. Sometimes I'll call this closed position and open, close, open. All right? The tricky thing here is that we have to extend going onto the A string and then close when we come to the D string. So your first finger is going to have to pop back and forth between regular first finger and extended first finger. Okay? Let's go through all of the steps of the key, still in 3/4, still doing dotted half notes, but now we're on the top 2 strings. Okay? Let's try it. 1, 2, 3, ready, and go. So when we're going up the scale, we can use 2, 3, and 4, leave them down on the fingerboard while you play the A string, and that can be an anchor finger for you to be able to pop your first finger back into an extension, a backwards extension, because we're going for a flat note. So as we go up the scale, you play 2, 4, and leave 2, 3, 4 down for when you play open A string. Do you see how as soon as I played my open A, my first finger popped into extension, getting ready to go down? And here it's closed, and then I pop it open. it's a 2-for-1 deal. We want to extend during open strings. We want to shift during open strings. There's a lot of times on cello where we're kind of doing two things at once because we need to prepare our hand shape for the next note. And if we can do it on an open string, awesome. That's super helpful. It gives us a little extra time. We don't have to shoot our first finger back so quickly and stress anything out. Okay, and when we're coming down, you see I pop up, kind of like I did before, but then I can let it close naturally. By the time fourth finger comes down, first finger closes the gap so that we have a regular first finger for the D string. Okay, let's try the second version of the Sad Clown, French folk song in D minor. This might actually be more comfortable for you to play, even though it's got the tricky business of a backwards extension, a low first finger. When we originally learned French folk song, it's on the high strings in D major. And so we're used to playing this melody up here with kind of similar fingerings. But in this case, second fingers instead of third finger, and low 1 on the A string. Okay? So mind your fingerings. I've got X's between 1 and 2 when we need to extend, little downward arrows for your B flats to remind you, hey, that's a lowered note, that's a backwards extension, and little natural signs when it's like, oh yeah, we need to close that, we need a normal 1 now on the D string. Okay, so pay attention to all those little clues and hints that I've put into the fingerings. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, ready, and play. Which one do you think sounds sadder to you? Does it sound sadder on the low strings? Or does it sound sadder on the high strings? I don't think there's any right or wrong answer here. It's just what it sounds like to you. Let's do the high string version one more time to get an extra practice at that extension and closing. Open and close. Okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, ready, and play. If you'd like to, you can play your open A and D string as a double stop at the end, kind of like we have done with French folk song in the major key. Okay? So enjoy these minor scales, enjoy playing in D minor. It's a great key on the cello, very emotive, and tell me what you think. Do you think the low string version is more sad or the high string version is more sad? Which one was easier to play? Which one was more difficult, and why? Be careful about those second fingers on the G string for B flat and those low extended ones on the A string. Okay, happy practicing, and I can't wait to hear you play this.